That's the former Kenya Private Sector Alliance chairman, just giving perspectives on matters to do with the trade and what needs to be done when it comes to addressing the barriers to trade. Well, we're still keeping it here at KICC, where the action is happening at the UNCTAD 14th session. We've been here throughout the week, and right now, allow me to bring in a gentleman who is has quite interesting views, and he'll share. He's a legislative and policy advisor. Many thanks, Sahil. Of course, today a lot up for discussion, and I don't know what stood out for you in the talks.
Well, today the sessions and the deliberations have all been about competition policy and consumer empowerment, and gearing those two aspects towards economic growth, and how those two aspects relate to trade. So the preceding sessions in the morning have all been around consumer empowerment. This is a function that has been given to UNCTAD as an official mandate from the UN. And hopefully now this will result to all countries across the world developing their own consumer protections indexes and regulations. Mm-hmm. Now, an important part of that is actually regulation.
All right.
Yes.
And speaking about regulation, a lot of talks on how do we strike a balance between protectionism and that sense of liberal markets across the different globe. Because, I mean, developing countries have held their up to their guns, saying these are our standards of importation. If it means changing this, the least developing countries also need to scale up and up their game, really. So what's the possible outcome around? Can we see the lifting of subsidies in developing countries? What are the real issues behind this, Sahil?
Yes, well, that was an interesting debate that actually happened yesterday in one of the sessions. And the key point that was brought out is that non-tariff barriers, because now tariff barriers and quotas have been reduced. So non-tariff barriers, one of the key ones is standardization, as you met, standards, quality standards and welfare standards. And differing countries all across the world have different standards. And that is a barrier for companies in the developing world to export, because they have to meet every single different standard. So there's been a whole conversation geared towards regulatory convergence, regulatory coherence, so that all the standards can be matched and a company in Kenya can export to many different markets without having to change the standards.
Mm-hmm. So Sahil, finally, out of this conference, what are some of the key outcomes you expect?
Well, what I really expect is a grounded determination towards achieving sustainable development goals. Because after the WTO conference that we had last year in December, that was the Nairobi Agreement, and then the Paris Agreement on climate change, and then the SDGs themselves, there have been a lot of agreements, there's been a lot of treaties, etc. Now, the theme for this conference is decision to action. I am looking forward to a Nairobi declaration from UNCTAD that really translates both our own Vision 2030 and Agenda 2030 of the SDGs towards action.
All right. Perfect place to end the conversation there. Speaking to Sahil Shah, who is a legislative and a policy expert, just sharing his thoughts on this UNCTAD 14th session, which is themed around from decision to action, really, and a lot expected come Saturday when the conference will be coming to a climax. Will we be having a Nairobi declaration on some of the pertinent issues touching on trade at a time where competition has been intensifying over time? Well, at that juncture, we take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll be speaking to Cabinet Secretary in charge for industrialization, Aden Mohammed, just also to get his views and what is Kenya likely to benefit from trade. All that after this quick commercial break.